Peace and respect to you all, and welcome to Demolished Doctrine, the beginning of the end of religions. Today, this show's probably going to run a little bit long. I'm hoping for a lot of audience participation today because we're going to be doing practical exercise of what we've evidently seen is true in our lives, in what some would call meditation, some would call intuition, some would call prayer, some would call serendipity, and several other labels, where I intend to help all of you. And with the experience that I've had, and I didn't have anyone to talk about these things with when it happened with me. And when it happened with me, I just went through a series of, I think you're going to find logical progressions to figure out what was going on, how to see if it was my own biases, if I was self-confirming or not. And I want to give you those tools. I want to also give you those tools that will be necessary in order to culture that experience and learn how to use it in everyday life so that your life becomes literally better. That's my intent. In 2011, I was an anti-theist, and I mean that in the strictest sense, and did not think these kinds of things could be true. Looking back at my past, even as an anti-theist, I was having these experiences. I just had excuses for them where I did not critically, skeptically look at the experience itself. And that's what I want to talk about today. So joining us again, as is Usul, MacTheHuman, and Big Zebra, Steve. And Steve, you were telling a story right before my diatribe there, opening, and you were saying how you were raised in a Roman Catholic setting. Would you continue with that or start over?
Sure. Yeah, I was raised Roman Catholic. This is in Canada. Canada is a very Catholic country compared to the United States. So think of, living in a country where 60% of the population is Catholic, for example, and significant Catholic minorities everywhere you look. In my case, this experience of talking to God, which many people have, it was largely a one-sided affair for me, and like things would be really bad, and I'd say something to the effect of, "Hey God, we could use a little help down here. We have, of course," and I find myself praying for friends and family all the time. I do. Later, when my doubts became greater and greater, I didn't find myself praying for myself and my own needs because it seemed too disingenuous. Hey, I'm not sure you exist, but if you could help a guy out, that is something I wouldn't do. But I would pray for others.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Back to you.
No, take all the time you want. If you wanted something more to say, go ahead.
No, I was pretty much finished. I mean, there's always more to say, but
So today we're going to be doing what's scientifically called a single blind survey. So the advantage in a blind survey is that neither Steve nor Mac know what is in these envelopes behind me. Please pay attention to the words I use. I'm not going to be using any leading terms at all. In fact, I'm going to be doing everything I can to avoid any kind of leading terms. Even the labels on these 6 envelopes behind me are designed to not indicate the picture contained within them.
Okay.
So, but designed to be fairly memorable. So I used geometric shapes and then an alphanumeric, that is a letter of the alphabet, and then a numeral to label each of these. And I did that based on the physical appearance of those characters. That is, like on my right, your left, you see triangle alpha 4, which all look kind of similar. And all of them kind of follow that mindset and is a shape, then a letter, then a number in that order. They absolutely have nothing to do with what's contained in the folders, which are photographs. Now, what are they photographs of? Well, what can you take a photograph of? That's what's there.
Okay.
That's all I'm going to tell you. That they are photographs of nouns. That's it. That's all you're getting. So anyone in the chat presently, and I'm going to keep saying this throughout this because a person could join in rather late and still catch up rather easily. Please take the time if you want to participate in this and see whether or not this is true in your actual reality. Please take the time now, and I'm just going to shoot the breeze for a while you do this. Please get yourself a physical writing implement and something physical you can write on. I would recommend between 6 and 10 sheets of paper and a simple writing, a pen, a pencil, whatever you got. It doesn't really matter what you use. If you want to participate. Of course, I'm supposing by this point in the conversation, if you're still around, you're at least fairly interested in the topic, and I would thank you for your openness, even though you may not think that what we're about to do is going to be reasonable or applicable in reality. Now, as a vote of confidence to human beings, I want to say that I have done this exercise in public at 2:30 in the morning in front of 4 security guards who were guarding the plaza and an art show, and did it with a drunken Frenchman who is not from this area at all. What I used as a medium for him to pray, I'm going to say pray. I hope you guys don't find the word pray offensive. I promise I don't mean what the Catholics have described, which is no description of anything we experience ever, which makes it useless. Peace and respect. Also B and Moon Medi. How you guys doing?
Hey.
And Pi, I read your comment back. Thank you very much for telling me what you thought and felt. I appreciate it. And the drunken Frenchman who had never heard of this process, who kept telling me he was going to see naked women no matter what. I'm not making this stuff up. You can't make this stuff up. I would say of the total picture in the magazine, out of a magazine box local where there are free magazines on the plaza, I'd say he got 35 to 50% of it in only 3 attempts. He could have made more attempts at it, and I'm going to describe later what I mean by attempts at it, and gotten more clarity than that should we have kept going. But he was a drunk guy, and it was late, and he was heading back for his hotel room, and I didn't want to keep him for an hour. But we accomplished some 35 to 50%, depending on what you think of it and what you think of what was actually the photo in the magazine. So I'm giving a tolerance there. Personally, I felt like he had a good solid 60% of it, but I don't want to say that because, well, I'm biased too, just like any other human on the planet. But he got at least 35% of it in 2 attempts, and did all of that. All of that happened in less than 5 minutes, and it can be that easy. Now, the only argument I've ever heard against this is a very intelligent scientific friend of mine who I think has a need for hopelessness. And that's a sorry thing to say. He's a brilliant man. He's a nice man. He's a friend of mine. But I think he has a need for hopelessness. He is unwilling to accept that there could be something like what I talk about all the time. He sharpens my arguments at least twice a week. But is it useful to tell him these things? Actually not. It's not. But he's one of my sounding boards, whom I do appreciate for exactly that reason. Peace and respect, Titan. And no, I'm never going to say it the way you want me to. A little bit of an inside joke for Titan and those of you who know him. Okay. All right. So here's some predecessory things I have to say. I'm going to try to use as little leading words as possible. Nothing that I say is going to be associated with any picture in any of these envelopes. All of the pictures are distinctly different from each other. All of them can be qualified as nouns, and that's all I'm going to say about them. But there's certain things you have to understand about this process in order to perform it. This process has nothing to do with your creativity. Your personal creativity and wantonness to solve puzzles can be very, very defeating to you. Because when you're guessing, like you expect guessing to be, you're wrong. So the hard part for me personally, and I think for a lot of humans who do these kinds of things, is to try to not solve the puzzle, to not try to solve the riddle, because that's essentially what this is a riddle. You're asking a question, like putting puzzle pieces together. You're getting bits and pieces of it like puzzle pieces. And your natural inclination will be, what is this? And that will be the worst thing you can possibly do. Until it's absolutely exhausted, you don't want to do it anymore. You've lost your desire for it, which may have been lost before you even started today. And that's okay. I can understand that. Until you've lost your desire to do it and will be able to make your will not do it anymore. You can't will yourself to do it. If you don't have a will to do it, you cannot force yourself. It's not like mowing the grass, because part of this is your will. And experientially, to me, my will is the filter of whether or not I get anything. And not only is it the filter of whether or not I get anything, it's also the filter as to whether or not I get falsehood. Because in information, not true information, but what can be perceived as information, there's always the possibility of something false. Thoughts you guys are having right now? I'll give you a few minutes for that.
I'm confused about the role of the will here. Could you maybe backtrack a little bit? And you're using your own will, and that's problematic? Is that
okay? We need to separate creativity and will.
Right. Okay.
Does that sound reasonable? Okay. Your creativity is your wantonness to problem solve or create things.
Sure.
Okay, that's your creativity.
Okay.
This has to involve no creativity. It will cause failure. However, if you have no will to ask a question, then you can't do this.
Interesting.
And all you need to be is honest with yourself. Go ahead, Steve. Yeah.
So we try to divine what is in one of the envelopes, and we're allowed to ask questions to...
Not to me. I'm not going to answer anything.
Oh, okay. So I can ask questions of Mac, but he'll be
no you can't ask questions of Mac.
Okay.
The idea here, okay, if a person can even accept the possibility that there are other consciousnesses in existence, which I take your brain being different from mine and that you have to explain things to me and I have to explain things to you as being good evidence that you're not me. Okay? So if I'm willing to accept there are other beings, that is, I'm not a strict solipsist. That's the first thing that has to be granted for this. The second thing that has to be granted for this is there can be a consciousness not near you. They can exist outside of your visual sight, outside of your ability to reach out a hand. So that's the second thing you would have to accept. The third thing you would have to accept is consciousness that are outside of your proximity, non-local to you, do exist or can exist and may know things that you don't know. Now all you need to do is to be able to ask those with more knowledge than you a question. That is a correspondence. Would either of you, or should I give a definition of what information is, what knowledge is, and what truth is?
I'm worried we'd go down a philosophical rabbit hole.
You have to touch it.
Yeah.
You have to touch it. At least you have to touch on it. These things cannot be vague.
Okay, well, why don't you give it a shot if you have definitions in mind? I don't.
Okay, let's see. Of information and knowledge and truth, truth is the most basic of these. So I'll take truth. Truth is that which comports to reality, or that's correspondence theory. It corresponds with reality. It is that which is existent in the actual cosmos that we can find and test and show to the best of our ability. We'll never get 100.00000% evidence, but it should be evidently true and persuasive to the 99 percentile or so. Is that okay for you guys for the word truth?
Sure.
I could give information a shot.
Go ahead, Mac.
Information is coherent signals that carry meaning, whether you understand the meaning or not.
From one intelligence to another.
I mean,
Right.
They could be unreceived, but it could be unreceived information.
You could write a book and no one ever found it to read it.
Right, exactly.
That is possible.
That sounds like one of my books.
But that doesn't mean the book wasn't written and doesn't contain information.
Right.
The book was still written and still contains some kind of information, even if nobody ever reads it. Okay, so can either of you give me an example of, or should we accept? Can either of you give me an example of information whose origin, which origin was not a conscious mind? Or should we accept information is habitually associated to conscious mind? I didn't author that. That's a standard saying.
Jeez, I'm not sure nature has self-organizing properties. So, for example, you could argue that DNA is information. You could argue that the signals a neutron star beeps out.
Let's go with neutron star for simplicity.
Yeah, okay.
Let's say a neutron star were pulsing in Morse code, the number 1 and then the letter A, then the number 1, then the letter A, continuously, never have, and we don't know of any time that it started. It started before we ever observed it, and it just keeps doing that. Is that information?
That's interesting.
That would be that might possibly be a signal rather than information, which is not the same thing.
Right.
For example, there's nothing about a Morse code for SOS that tells you that a ship is in danger. It's a convention.
Right.
Okay, now how does that convention operate?
Well, agreed upon by intelligent people prior to its use.
That's
whereas
it's an idea translated through a known, agreed upon code.
Sure.
Okay, can we think of any example of a known, agreed upon code generating ideas originating from a non-intelligent?
I don't think so.
As far as we know, it's absolutely impossible.
I would say so.
Okay, so these things are fundamental. We have to agree on those. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I was just going to say that in these sort of situations, something jumps up and bites you on the nose and then says, hey, surprise. But by all means, go ahead.
So I am not going to try to justify how prayer actually, or intuition, gut feeling, serendipity. I'm not going to try to justify how it exactly operates. We've never put that on the scientific survey table and looked hard at it. Mostly, I think, for fear. For fear it might actually be proven. And that would really bother us. We don't like that. Okay. So even though there's much evidence to this in the personal experience, and although churches, all of them that I know of, except perhaps some of the references to Akashic records and or higher self and or ancestors, do a very, very bad job of teaching this. All of Christianity seems to do a horrible job of teaching about this experience. They barely touch on it, if they do at all. And then when they do, it's mostly Schwarzkopf hand waving with no real explanation. And that's what I'm here to do for you guys tonight, is explain to you the experience I've had and why it led me to actually being okay with life when I wasn't before this, which was thousands of experiences and not a singular event. Okay. All right. Any thoughts right there?
I'm good. Keep going.
Okay, so if you're a late arrival and you'd like to participate in this show today, which I would hope that you will, actually, all of you in side chat, if you're not logging in to participate, feel free to participate in silence on your own or scream at me or whatever you like doing. It's fine with me. But it will be required that by the end of this show, you're going to need to have already had, probably now would be a good time, a writing implement, something to write on, plenty of space to write on. Okay, you'll probably need something equivalent to a 4x4 sheet. What size the sheets are doesn't really matter, but altogether you may need like 4 square feet, or 6. You may need as much as 16 square feet, depending on how big you like to scribble, because this is going to be basically scribbling and seeing what comes out of it. Okay. So if you want to take time now to get a writing implement and say 6 to 10 sheets of paper, now would be a convenient time to do it before we really get into this. All right. I was raised Roman Catholic as well, Steve, and my experience after I left the church and starting at age 42 was very different from what Catholic priests told me, which are, by the way, they're not priests. That's a title they don't deserve. But anyway, there's a biblical word priest, and it means something, and it's not that dude up the street in your church. That's not what it means. But to go back to topic, Mac, I don't want to put anything on you, but did you? I seem to recall, and I could be wrong, that you did grow up around church people, and they did talk about these things. Would you please explain to me what prayer is?
Yeah. So what I learned prayer was quieting and humbling yourself, and they would say spending time with Jesus or spending time with God. That was sort of the language that was used. Mostly Methodist or Presbyterian sort of groups, so very mainstream Protestant groups. There is, of course, the Lord's Prayer was heavily emphasized. And I think probably what you're remembering is I habituated reciting the Lord's Prayer, even into these kind of this time in my life when I'm relatively uncertain about such things. I still end my day with the Lord's Prayer, and it was one of the first conversations we had. So. But yeah, so for me, prayer is, and then people did report hearing from God as well. I always found that dubious. I always found that to be boastful even. And I never experienced it myself. I would ask for things from God in times of desperation, just like Steve, and I would ask for blessings for people around me and support for people around me as well, and not hear a response, but not see a response, not see an effect from the prayers. it's very demoralizing. So, but that's my
Indeed.
experience with prayer.
Okay. So I found that to be very, very uninformative.
Oh.
Not insulting to you, but insulting to what you were told as a youth in churches. Because what does it mean to spend time with Jesus? How would you know you spent time with Jesus? If it's Jesus, you would think that Jesus would tell you something important that mattered, that would change your life. And I have to ask, these people teaching these lessons, were they happy? Because if they weren't happy, they're liars. Because if there were a higher being of any kind who had any kind of love for you, they would tell you the truth. That would improve your life, and you'd become at least, I'd say, contented, which is a form of happiness. And if that didn't happen for them, they didn't pray. This leads me to believe that many who claim prayer are very self-confirming, and that's where it stops. They have an emotional response, even mental responses to a practice which could probably be equivocated to self-hypnotism. I don't believe that's the answer. I don't think that internal biases and confirmation of self-righteousness and self-hypnotism is prayer. In fact, it's very much can't be that. That never have I seen lead to success. So today we're going to be doing a practical exercise. If everyone's prepared, and I know you guys already are, I'm going to need a random number. Mac, you're good at bringing things up on your computer. Bring up a calculator. No, I don't want a random number generator. I don't want one. I want it to be from the participating side chat.
Okay.
If everyone in side chat would enter a number between 0 and 7, that's including numbers 1 through 6. Why? Because I have 6 folders behind me, pre-prepared with photos in them, and we need to find which one we're using. And Mac, if you would come up with a number, go ahead, speak it.
5.
And Steve as well, come up with a number.
3.
Okay, so I'm going to give that a minute. Oh, welcome, Ox. And also Santori 11, if my eyes are working, if the glasses are good. Okay, so Mac, go ahead and enter in the number that you chose, and then the number that Steve chose, which were 5 and 3. Also enter in 5, 5, 4, 2, 1. And I think that's all the participation we're going to get. Please divide that by 1, 2. Oh, we have a 6. Please divide that by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Divided by 8.
Yeah.
Got it.
So we should have an audience average number. If it's 3 or 4, we're not using it.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. I have to use whatever they say.
I was wondering about that.
No, I have to be completely unbiased in this, or I'll destroy the whole thing if I do anything else.
Mm.
I don't know why I'm going to use my phone.
The number
I got
should
some
be
junky one. All right, 5, 3.
Oh, we have another vote. We have a 1.
2, 1, 6, 1. So that means divide by 9.
Yep.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay. Six plus 1 divided by 9. Okay, there we go. It's 3.
Okay, now we have to decide which folder is number 3. I'm doing this as arbitrarily as possible.
B.
Yeah, I saw
Okay,
that.
so there's the 6 folders, and they have a shape, then a letter, then a number on each one of them. Steve, would you decide which folder I should start counting from?
Yes, third from the left.
Does that mean this one or this one?
Heart M3.
Heart M3. Okay, so I'm going to start with Heart M3. That's folder number 1. So Harpo Blues, would you tell me, should I go this way or this way in counting from here?
To the right.
Which way am I pointing right now?
You're pointing to. Well, you've pointed both directions now.
Yeah, but right now. I'm
okay,
holding
now
my
you're.
position.
Hold on. I'm looking at the wrong screen. Yes. Okay, that's the direction I mean.
Okay.
So the selected one would be star U7, I guess.
I think it's a W.
Star W7. This wouldn't be number 3.
Yeah.
Okay, this is number 3. And all this is going to collapse while I'm standing here looking at it, which would be very embarrassing, but oh well. Okay, so much for that. All right, so here's the folder. It is glued. If you can see that, I can hold it up by that. It's not going to fall open or something. That's glued, and it's also the clasp is opened up to hold that closed, and it's still this folder. Okay. All right. So I'm going to take this folder now. When I arranged these, I took arbitrary, completely no order to the selection. Then I put them in folders, hard cardboard folders, and then I shuffled them. And then I identified 6 envelopes in this way by writing out this series of combinations. Then I shuffled the folders. Then I labeled each one of them. I have no clue what's in here, and I'm not going to say, because I couldn't anyway. But I'm going to take this, and using these clasps on the back, I'm going to wrap a string around that. And I'm going to leave it where you can see it. Unopened. Okay, I'm going to take the rest of them down because they'll be poking me in the back. And also, distractions are very, very bad in this kind of thing. All right, we're good?
All right.
No sleight of hand, guys. This is the real thing. Okay, so here we have the envelope. You guys selected pretty darned arbitrarily, even where we started counting from, after taking an average count. So I think I can't get more honest than we should all have no idea what's in there, including me. So I can't even help. All right, let's see. Next step. Who needs to go pee?
I'm
go
good.
Pee. Bowel movement. Glass of water. Cup of coffee. Smoke a cigarette. Need a snack. Kids are likely to interrupt you. Wife is likely. Husband is likely. Whatever. Anything like that at all. Anything that might get in your way. Are you physically safe right now?
Yeah.
There's almost no reasonable chance that something is going to interrupt you of anything of any kind, because that will preoccupy your mind. You need to be completely on target and nowhere else.
Ready here.
Okie dokie.
Just a sec. All right. All right, let's do it.
Okay, so I'm going to review the whole process in specific enough terms that it applies to what I've experienced, in general enough terms that it applies to human beings. Now, first I want to describe that everyone's experience. Oh, wait a minute, I almost forgot an entire thought process before we start. Steve, tell me one thing that your eyes ever saw.
Light.
No, they didn't. Mac, you want to try?
A couch.
No, they didn't.
I'm not sure what you're.
Well,
Your
brain
eyes
is
right.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Your eyes are incapable. Tell me one thing you ever heard. With that your ears ever heard. Tell me one thing your skin ever felt. Nothing ever. Absolutely all of our experience is in our brain. No matter what senses you are using to perceive something, it's your brain that perceives it and nothing else can. Detach an eyeball, hold it up to a light, there will not be light coming out the back end of that nerve. It doesn't work that way. Your brain experiences things. So I should fully expect that all of my experiences are internal to my brain. That would be easily justified. In fact, there can be no exception. So since my brain is what perceives things, I should expect that anything I perceive comes through my brain. This sounds very redundant, but it needs to be said. All right. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience and things you may or may not experience in this experiment. You may not experience anything at all. That's entirely possible. All right. And I'm not trying to back out. I've never seen somebody who didn't have some accuracy in their experience in this kind of experiment. I've never seen a total failure. I've seen different levels of success, but I've never seen a total failure. It seems to me it's just something that humans do. Ox went to pee, got a full cup of coffee, a fatty rolled kids, a groan, a wife is, hell if I know. Okay, so he's good. All right then. All right. In first experience, it may be a little bit surprising if you've never done this before. I personally perceive that there's nothing to have fear in concerning truth. Is truth always comfortable? Well, no, it's not. In fact, it can be quite upsetting to receive a truth that you don't like. But that's your personal feelings, and frankly, it's your personal problem. If you would rather be comfortable than have truth, these kinds of exercises can be very, very disturbing. You might not like it. Now, people have different experiences of this when what seems to be their imagination creates some kind of data that can be perceived as information. Okay? Some people see colors. Some people see shapes. Some people see silhouettes. Some people see filled in silhouettes. Some people see words. Some people see sections of picture with everything that it ever will contain in that experience. And do it very much like a puzzle piece. This is extremely individual. I cannot guess what you are going to experience. I just have no idea. It could be any of those things, combinations of those things, or something that I've never experienced at all. I don't know. There's no way for me to know your brain. And I'm not assuming I can. All right. So here's the exercise. In a calm, relaxed state, thinking of nothing. It's often a good idea for people to just loosen up a little bit and scribble just a scribbledy gobbledygook at the top of the page, which doesn't have to mean anything. If you feel like you should do that, do it. If you feel like you shouldn't, don't bother. It doesn't matter to you. The next thing will matter. After you feel like you're in a relaxed state, write down the number of this folder, the identifier of this folder, which is star W7. Which things are very arbitrarily selected, except for they look similar. Write that at the top of the first sheet of paper. If you feel like scribbling more meaninglessly in just a comfortable and relaxed state, feel free to do that anytime. You're not going to forget what it meant. You're going to remember that it meant nothing, and it's not a problem. Anytime you feel like you need to relax, just scribble a little bit off to the side somewhere, or scribble all over an entire sheet and throw it away. It doesn't really much matter. But we do need to keep this folder identifier as just some point of reference. The folder identifier in this case replaces the question and replaces every question possible. That's the purpose of the identifier. It's the same as saying, my life sucks and I have this fundamental problem I need solved. So it identifies the problem. This could be, I don't know what to say to this person I deeply care about that they need to hear to help them in the best way possible so that they can be happier in their life. That might be the question. It might be, I don't know how to disassemble this steering system on this 71 International Harvester, Scout 2. It might be that could be the question. Who knows? But whatever it is, that's what this represents. It represents the question itself. And you have company. And
okay, please.
No, please take care of it with whatever you
All
need.
right.
If you need time, we'll take time.
All right, thanks, Richard. Give me a second.
No. This is about humans.
Thanks.
Yeah, I agree with your sentiment, Ox. In my very, very comfortable atheistic life where everything was understandable, knowable, easy to predict, comfortable. I'll just take my comfortable life before all of this happened to me. I thought I was fairly happy. I thought I was fairly well adjusted. I thought that I had a grip on reality. And then when this process began with me, I had to throw away 80% of subjective things because I found out they were just wrong. And it's not easy to admit that you're wrong about something in the first place. And then for me personally, there's not only the problem of what do they call it? Deconversion out of a religion. That's half the problem. See, because people, for the same reason there are cults, people don't want to leave what they're emotionally and time invested in. They don't want to leave that. And that's what cults count on. They ask you to do a little tiny thing that you don't find completely comfortable, and you do it because a nice person nicely asked you. But then they're going to build on that. They're going to ask you to do something a little bit more uncomfortable, a little bit more taxing. And not much bigger, small things, until you're so invested in the time that you've given, you don't want to admit you're wrong. This is why cults survive.
That's exactly right.
So it's not only uncomfortable to get out of a religion, it's also uncomfortable to admit that there could be validity in a religion after you've been out of it. That's even harder because now you were already once an idiot. Trust me, I didn't like that. I really, because I'm a proudful man. I really didn't like that part of it. But moving on. Okay, so here's what I'm going to ask of everyone. Then I'm going to become dead silent. I'm going to stay dead silent for at least a full minute. In fact, I'm just going to say 1 full minute. I'm going to time it on my watch. Okay? For 1 full minute, I'm going to say absolutely nothing. I'm going to ask Steve and Mac to also say nothing during that time. Now, during that time, I'm going to ask anyone who's participating, feel free to jump in now if you thought you might not want to have before and have changed your mind. You only need a writing implement, something to write on, and the identifier of this folder written at the top of the sheet as just a reference point that replaces a question. So I want you to just relax. At the time that I become silent, I'm going to tell you when I'm going to become silent. It will last 1 minute. That should be an immense amount of time. You'll probably be bored by the time the minute's over, and that's okay. In fact, being human is okay. But what I'm going to ask you to do at the beginning of that time is to only ask about, in the form of a question, what star W7 contains in a picture. And I'm going to ask you to inquire about the third piece of paper in there. Not the first, not the second, but the third one, because the third one is the actual picture. The rest of the other 2 sheets are observations about that picture. Okay, because I've designed a scoring program so you can score yourself. All right. So concentrating on the third sheet, formulating the question, what is the picture contained in star W7? All right. So if everyone feels comfortable, unless I get an immediate objection, any immediate objections, problems, thoughts, anything? Got nothing? Let's go ahead and give it a shot. In concentrating on that, you should get some kind of an idea come into you. It should contain some kind of information. You do not know if it's valid or not. That's okay. Don't worry about it. Only repeat that onto the paper. You don't have to be a great artist. That's okay. Use a large amount of space, waste paper as needed. Don't try to be technically perfect. It's kind of not going to matter. Okay? So do big drawings so that we're not sitting there and you're not sitting there later going, well, I don't know if that part's really a match or not. We don't want to have that problem. Okay? So big, ugly drawings. Go ahead.
What about the stuff we drew before?
What stuff you drew before?
You said draw things that come to you.
You mean scribbling?
Yeah.
You mean you've already started the exercise? You've already started drawing things?
Maybe
That's okay. No, there are people who do this. I'm not even going to go over that. That's going to be distracting.
Okay.
It's fine. Whatever you're doing is fine. Don't worry about it too much. It's not about being super structured. It's about being very, very honest with yourself and your experience and not being creative. That's what it's really about. When these things happen to you, doesn't really matter. Honestly, it doesn't matter. If you're ahead of me, fine. Be ahead of me. I don't care. It's fine. We're still going to have a system for grading at the end of the exercise so that you can say, well, it's not only my bias, also the opinions of others, and also evidently true. It's not just pareidolia. It's not just self-confirmation. So I created a way that you could do that pretty easily, I think. And we'll see how it works out. Okay. So when I say mark, the minute will begin. When I say mark, I will not be speaking anymore. Please do not speak, but only receive whatever you receive. And just make note of it. If you don't have colored pencils and stuff, but you get a color, you can just write the name of the color. Do not write a general name of a general color. Be specific. Because there's all kinds of different colors and different shades of color. So be very, very specific. Be specific. Is it light or dark? Okay. Is it cloudy or clear? Is it shiny or dull? Is it be very, very specific about these things. Okay. If you get a clear outline, draw exactly that outline and nothing more. Don't even try to put it together. If you get something highly technical, draw the highly technical thing, but draw it big so you don't have to be a great artist and we can still tell what it is. And we're going to start in 5 seconds and begin. And relax. And that's a full minute. Okay. So continuing this process is only continuing to do what you just did, but just more than once. Now, I think today we'll probably do, I don't know, Mac, would you unmute? What do you think is a reasonable number of times to do this for a fairly complicated image?
And we're going for accuracy and sort of precision. Maybe, I guess it would depend on your artistic skills in terms of being able to transfer to paper, but maybe
it's just a first exercise. We have to get the idea down and see if we're only being biased,
right,
if we're just making stuff up. So what do you think? You said
honestly,
5?
two or three times maybe. 5 would be generous then, just for general impressions.
Let's go 5.
Okay.
Now, when I do this in real exercise, and I'm trying to gain a photograph of something in my head, I'm probably going to go 15, 20 times before I quit. Okay. Anything to say, Steve?
Yes. Are we to reiterate the object or whatever, the noun that we're describing?
Yes,
so take another shot at it.
You repeat the question with it, not trying to put things together, not trying to remember what just happened, but just do the absolute exercise from scratch again. You state the question. The question in this case is 3rd page of Star W7. Whatever comes to you in your mind, you put to paper.
So I could end up with 5 different nouns for 5 different drawings then. Okay.
Well, you shouldn't, which was the purpose of selecting one envelope.
Okay.
Now,
I got you.
If you remember any of those combinations and level, or are concentrating on those other envelopes, you may get information from those other envelopes. Please do not be inventive and stay on target. Just stay to this one thing, okay?
Okay.
I actually know of a guy that does all of his drawings before the envelopes are created and has great success. Before they're created. So this sort of thing, it gets into questions about what time means if you think about it too deeply. It's really interesting, actually, if you start digging into this.
All right.
Yeah, I have found you can get literally any information you ask for, which is pretty crazy. So try to ask for only one piece of information. Harpo Blues, you're more than welcome to write words. As I said, if you don't have colored pencils, but you get a color, you can write the name of the color. Just be specific so there's no confusion as to whether or not it was your personal bias and confirmation bias later. Okay? Just be specific so that you can tell the difference. And besides, you're just doing it with yourself. You don't have to prove anything to me. If you guys want to comment below this video about your results, if you want to share the results of this exercise after the fact, that would be great. If you're willing to do that, that would be awesome. Okay, you guys ready to go again?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Do you think that 1 minute was enough time?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Anybody in the side chat felt like 1 minute was not enough time? Please enter just a simple word like yes or no. It was or was not enough time. My question is, was it 1 minute enough time? Everybody left. I'm just kidding. There's 7 people watching somewhere.
I might
Okay,
need more than a minute, I think.
Well, B said no, 1 minute was not enough.
Okay.
Moon Medi said 1 was enough. Ox says 1 is enough. But just out of consideration, and boredom isn't that horrible, let's extend it to 2 minutes. What do you guys say? Any objection to that?
That's fine.
Going to extend that to 2 minutes. And we're going to start in about 5 seconds. And I'm silent now. Feel free to continue, but 2 minutes has expired.
Okay.
All right. So the rest of this is just doing it again. That's it. The advantage to doing this way in a single blind survey is I get to reveal what your results should have been.
Do we start again?
It's really hard to lie. What's that?
Number 3? Should we start number 3 now?
You mean your third attempt? Let's not number things.
Okay.
Let's not assign anything that could be perceived as a value of a folder. Let's not even talk about anything except for star W7. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry.
Feel free on your own timing. Let's go nuts with it. You already know what to do. You have already, most of you and or possibly all of you, have already experienced some kind of flash of information into your mind. For me, those don't last very long, perhaps a half second, and then they just disappear. But I can't speak to your personal experience. It can be extremely different. Feel free to do this as many times as you like. Please don't be rushed. Please don't try to solve the puzzle. Please make separate drawings unless you're absolutely aware that it's a continuation of something you already did, in which case that would be fine too. All right. And I'm just going to mute myself, maybe go have a cigarette because I'm talking too much to participate. I'm going to mute myself and you guys are all on your own. I'm going to check back in about 10 minutes. I'm sorry, I'm going to say one more thing. Mac, please mute. Feel free to continue, but 10 minutes has expired. B has the perfect answer. That's exactly what you should be experiencing right now. In fact, if you said something else, I would think you were biased. And bias is not healthy for this kind of a thing. Harpo Blues brought up a good point. The more guessing I take, the more likely I am to come up with something resembling the picture. Well, that's true. Statistically speaking, that's true. That is true. Would anyone like to estimate for me how many pictures have existed in the history of this planet?
No, I would not like to estimate that.
So if anyone would like to estimate for me or come up with the actual numerical of your likelihood of getting, I don't know, a single straight, I'll make it a straight line. I'll keep it simple. It doesn't even have to have a shape. A single straight line at the right angle and the right length out of all possible straight lines that have ever been photographed. Anybody? You don't want to try that one either? Okay, I think I made my point. If you get 5% of a picture right, that should never happen in this experiment. Unless we have some ability that we just naturally, intrinsically have that we don't normally develop and people don't talk about it because it's uncomfortable. Because you shouldn't be able to get 5% right. That should be freaking impossible. 3.5 trillion, is that the number? Could you go ahead and do the math on the rest of what I requested? 3.5 trillion pictures taken. Wow.
Oh, jeez.
What is that, according to Google?
Yeah, it's fstoppers is the publication, fstoppers.com. It's since the daguerreotype was invented, approximately 3.5 trillion. I don't know how you do the math on the percentages of chances of identical. I mean, you'd have to think there's similar themes in a lot of those pictures. I mean, and what are we going to qualify as a match too? We should probably discuss that. So sure. Like if it's a picture of a house and we have a picture of a house included somewhere in the picture that we've drawn, is that a match? Even if the houses don't resemble each other or something like that. So
that's got to be a low percentage match. Just to say there is a house in these pictures are all very, very focused on one object.
Okay.
There's not background to be had.
Okay. There's not a lot of elements to the picture.
Well, some of them have a lot of elements.
Okay.
But it's definitely a singular thing, a singular idea.
Okay.
And those are selected that way on purpose, so there's not a whole lot of white noise in the background.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right.
My friend Harpo Blues wants to play 20 questions. I love that game. I'm really good at it. You know that's a process of elimination, right? Now, how good are you at a process of elimination? Some people are really good at it. Some people are not so good at it. Personally, I usually do very well with 20 questions, but I do get 20 questions on one topic which the other person has the answer for. Anybody here got an answer for what's in that folder? Because I don't.
Oh,
I have no idea.
I was once in just a bit of trivia. I was once playing a game of 20 questions, and I sent a room full of people into a rage. And I mistakenly thought myself pretty clever for coming up with something so difficult. But it just ended up with a room of argumentative people who were pissed off. And that I had caused it.
Did you get beat up?
No, it wasn't that kind of party.
Well, then you're not exactly too smart for your own good, but it's close. Any of you guys ever heard of mini mysteries?
Yes.
It's something I did. I learned them in the military. All the ones that I have answers to, I did solve. How many do you think you've solved, Steve, and how many have you heard of?
Well, at another party, someone had them as part of this game.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't reveal that I knew a lot of them. And so I just cleaned up.
That's called, what's the word for that? Oh, yeah, cheating. It's called
No,
cheating.
Research. Research is not cheating.
That's
I had
cheating.
read a book called 2-Minute Mysteries. And they had like
Okay.
70 of them or something.
Yeah, I could be misquoting the name of those kinds of puzzles. Anyway, if you love puzzles, look up 2-Minute Mysteries.
Sound cool.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're ready for the reveal. Or if somebody in the side chat's not ready for the reveal, say so now. Give you a minute on that for electrical delay and internet service and all that stuff.
Mm.
Yeah, in the army, in the regular army at least, you spend a lot of time sitting around really, really bored. And Mac, since I got a blank stare when we talked about these mini mysteries or 2-minute mysteries,
Yeah.
what it basically is part of a story that's designed to where you can eventually ask questions answerable by yes and no and get the full story.
Gotcha.
But it's such a tiny part of the total that I don't know. I think the easiest one that I know of would take a singular individual probably about 45 minutes on average to solve, but 3 people could probably solve it in about 5 minutes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I remember one. If you're curious, Mac, I can. Well, if you
Is
don't.
it like we had a logic teacher when I was in high school that did this kind of puzzle. I remember one where it was like this man was found dead in a cabin, no one else was around. How did he get there, or something like that, or what happened? Is that the kind of thing you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's some clue hidden in the description that.
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly. But it seems
I
very
consider
innocuous.
that particular one to be cheating because it's a play on words.
Right.
And I don't like that's not fair.
Okay.
So he probably gave you the worst one I've ever heard of.
How would we know that he was there if no one went to check?
That's a good question. How's there only one person?
That's not a yes or no question, though.
I don't prefer it that way.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but it was something. So I get the kind of thing you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That takes me back.
Yeah. Okay, you guys ready?
Ready. I'm going to be freaked out if I got it right. I'm going to be wondering what the hell.
Me too. I swear I've never met this man before in my life.
Here's the envelope. I'm gonna try to keep the label in view. I don't know how well I've never tried to be this exacting. Before, so.
And the winner is?
Well, there's no winner yet because now you got to deal with this.
I was thinking of the Oscars,
Oh. All right. So here's page 1. Page 1, just real general things. Let me see. So we got some colors: green, tan, orange, yellow, or amber color, clear glass or mirror, brown. Did I write brown instead of brown? I wrote brown bark. I'm an idiot.
Brown bark.
Green leaves, black post, black, brown, blue, purplish, pink, gray clothes, and shirts. So,
Okay, I got a little of it.
so if you have any of those, then your brain works a lot like mine in seeing a picture. But that's not horribly significant, actually. Okay.
Okay.
Now, but if you have some of that, give yourself one merit. If you have something that doesn't fit the end picture, for everything you have that doesn't fit the end picture, give yourself a demerit.
Okay.
Easy, simple scoring system. Oh, wait a minute, it doesn't work like that. I have to turn the page. All right. All right. So if you have tall rectangles and short rectangles, or two-dimensional diamonds in varied angles, if you have wood slats or a bench-like wood slat, chairs, people, if you have specifically men times 5, women times 1, if you have a shiny flat surface like a table, if you have a tree, if you have an accordion pleated surface that appears to be either glass or mirrored, if you have orangey yellow lampshades, and here is my perception of an overhead view of the picture, because sometimes these things are perceived in 3 dimensions, even with you inside the object. So this would be an overhead view as if looking through the roof of the building. These squares are tables. These objects near the tables are people. This object over here is the top view perception of a tree, and this one is an empty table. And see if I can get a good light angle.
Okay.
Here's the actual photograph. Sorry, there's some green in the picture, and you're seeing my icon through the picture.
Oh yeah.
Oh, right
Hold
on.
on a second. Let me turn that off. Let me turn that off. That was silly. Well, I didn't know which one I was going to get anyway. Let me just turn it off. There we go. All right. So no more green screen, and that won't happen. This way. And get the light angle off of it. And there you go. And I'll hold that up as long as you want so you can see as much detail as possible. See if I can get the whole thing in one frame.
Okay, I'm good.
Thank you, Steve. Now, because this can be really, really weird, and it's hard to tell how much information a person gets, I'm going to read the following caption. Because you might have words out of the caption, although it wasn't even part of the picture and not what you were supposed to be concentrating on. It may be valid information. I'm going to say these words individually slowly so they're well understood. If you think you got some words out of this or ideas out of this caption, please review the video later. I'm not going to take time to go over absolutely all of this individually. The owners of this 25-year-old restaurant in Dallas, Texas, wanted to increase seating capacity inside and out. The architect, Dallas-based MSC Design, decided to include a folding glass wall as part of its overall plan for the space. This particular system was appealing because it offered 12-foot high panels that let in plenty of daylight, and because it allowed for the floor track to carry the system's weight, relieving stress on the, and it's cut off.
Well, Mac, I'm thinking I failed this remote viewing experiment.
Looks like B struck out as well. I don't know if I can honestly say I did better than break even in terms of the merit demerit system. I'd have to reach to do better than breaking even.
Well, you want to not reach.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so peace and respect to the EA show. I've been trying to have this conversation, which is this show with you, Justin Khalilullah, for, I don't know, months. But since it came up in topic of conversation with Mac, we just went ahead and did it. If you ever find the time, go back and review this and see what you think. Try it on your own. Just because I've never seen people completely get nothing doesn't mean it can't happen. It just hasn't been my experience. Now, that does not mean that this was the perfect scenario for you, where you were completely relaxed and able to completely concentrate. Please just be honest with yourself if you weren't able to do that. But now that we've gone over the process, you can try it on your own. All you have to be is honest. Select something that you cannot have known, a newly published magazine.
Right.
Select a page number which would exist in that magazine. Don't open it. That's it. Then follow this exercise. Pick a page number. The page number is the question. Ask the question, what is on this page number? Repeat the process, repeat the process. All right. Of people who did get something, is it okay with you? And by the way, it's totally okay with you if it's not okay to score it in public. Steve, you said you got nothing. Was that what I heard you say?
No, I got a couple of things. Did you want me to rattle them off?
It would be better if you could show your drawings, but if you're only comfortable speaking about it, that's okay.
With the lighting in here, you wouldn't see it.
Okay.
So I drew a elevator car, which has tall rectangles. It has fake wood paneling and a mirror, and it has the standard, cross-hatched diamonds on the floor for grip.
Oh, right.
And that came up somewhere in there. Not for flooring, but there was something in there.
Actually, this does have a parquet floor.
Oh, okay. Well, not the same as a diamond floor, but very good. And that was pretty much it. There's a lot of other things to do with this elevator car, but I don't think they were relevant to the picture Richard has.
Okay. So if you use the merit demerit system and judge yourself on the side of caution, out of total colors, shapes, reflectivity, what you think you may have invented and what was definitely in the picture. And I only want what's definitely in the picture. How would you score yourself?
Well, let's see. I got 1, 2, 3 things right.
And how many things wrong?
God, that would be almost infinite.
Infinite things, no, but that appeared in your drawing. Not what did you miss?
That appeared in the drawing that was incorrect?
Yes. Things that you drew that simply were not in the picture.
3, 4, 5. I can find 5 things right off the bat.
Okay. All right. So now that you've experienced this one, I would recommend doing this again. Now, mind you, I've got 5 more folders behind me, and I'll do this all night with cigarette breaks because I think it is really actually that important. If you guys wished, I would just keep going like this. But for now, thank you very much, Steve. Mac, would you talk about it? You don't have to talk about it, but would you talk about it?
Yeah, I'd be psyched to. I'd like to see what you say about it. So, well, I'll just show my picture here. The big image that flashed into my head right away was an airplane. Not quite in this perspective, a little bit further away. I'm not a great artist, but very clearly an airplane. And then as I drew, as I revisited the question, I saw more of those. I saw more of the detail of what the airplane was flying over, and I got an impression of some like sort of small houses. I don't know if that corresponds to the tables or not. It's sort of like a post hoc thing, I guess. I definitely
wouldn't want to count houses as tables because first of all, they're not flat on top, even if they are approximately the right shape.
Right. But altogether, it came together as sort of like a Southeast Asian sort of a landscape with jagged mountains in the background and some like flower fields, rice.
Be careful,
paddies,
man.
like
You're
that.
giving me Vietnam flashbacks.
Some of the words that came to me were sense of trouble or war, and then also tourism, which was a big kind of a thing. So, I don't know. I think I have a lot of misses here. I think that the general theme is wrong, and the layout. There's something reminiscent. The jagged mountains are reminiscent of the folded glass wall. The idea of tourism sort of maps to folks that would be visiting a restaurant, and maybe it's an Asian restaurant. I was sort of eager to hear if there was a hint of that in the spiel at the bottom, but there doesn't seem to be. And it doesn't really look like one. It actually looks like it'd be more like French or Italian, maybe, restaurant from the decor. So it was interesting, though. The experience was interesting because I clearly got an image that I didn't invite. I mean, as far as I know, I didn't participate in the creation of that image. I didn't intentionally do that anyway, but that's what I understand creativity to be, is sort of these gifts of images when you open up your mind and quiet your mind. Oh, and then my last thought, of course, is that when you asked, am I truly is my mind truly at rest right now? Like, I'm not sure it ever is these days. So that's something I should probably work on.
Well, maybe that's all of us.
Yeah. Do you see any
I gotta
clues
say,
in the
I think not. It's not a contest. I mean, a person should practice this on their own, and when they're in a truly relaxed place and time. Okay, and if that's not the case, and as I said before we did this, if your will is not there, or you're disturbed by something, you're going to be on the thing that's disturbing you.
Right.
To me, it sounds like you're describing a news piece. I don't know why, but to me, it sounds like you're describing a still frame out of a news piece.
Yeah, I even sort of thought it was black and white too. Like I thought I was looking at a newspaper photo. I thought that's what you might produce. Yeah.
All right, so you by audience vote and by people in the show, we're stopping, we're continuing. There are 5 more folders.
I think I can do one more and then I will go to sleep.
I'm not sure. I think I better tap out.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm exhausted a bit.
All right. Well, This is going to sound kind of funky, and I want harsh judgment of these things. It either is the object or it isn't. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But don't throw away your drawings for a couple months.
Okay.
Because that might pop up somewhere. I don't know if there is information from a consciousness somewhere else. They might not have liked this experiment. They might have gone for something more proving than this, something that hasn't even happened. But it should be exactly what you drew.
Right.
Without forgiveness. Now, that may never happen. I don't know. This could have been something you experienced in the past. This could be something that's happening in the future. And time is really mushy in these things. That much I know. Time is mushy in these things. But thank you for your participation, Mac. I appreciate you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for the tutorial. Likewise, I appreciate you too.
And again, thank you. And again, just because you don't have success first try doesn't mean success won't happen. Now, if you give it an honest 10 or 15 tries of this and you just keep getting nothing, I'd say stop. Okay? Because apparently you're not going to. And that's okay. It is entirely possible that some people cannot do this for personal or possibly even chemical reasons that we are just unaware of because we have not put rigorous scientific study to this, let's call it a phenomenon.
Okay.
But thank you very much for your time, Mac. I appreciate you.
Thank you too.
Hey, good night.
Take care. Take care, Steve. Good night.
Bye.
Incidentally, if anyone would like to join the stream, say so in side chat. I'll post a link. You're welcome to come in, share your results, whether they were negative or positive. If you feel like speaking, that sharing will matter, and I'd appreciate you sharing if you're so inclined. So you want to try to do one more? We still need a selection process, so I'm going to do the same thing. Anyone who has hung in this long and is still in side chat, we have 5 folders behind me, and we're going to do it just as weird and arbitrary and unpredictable as possible as we did the last time. Please vote in the side chat for 1 through 5.
Crap out on you, Richard, but I'm actually losing altitude here.
No, that's quite all right. I understand.
Do you have? I hope you have some participants in the chat.
I don't see anyone responding. Let's see my invitation to come in. Moon Medi says Moon Medi would like to do one more. Moon, if you feel like you don't understand the process, or if you have a clarifying question, I would answer it or attempt to answer it. But unless I get at least 3 people saying we should continue, not to be prejudiced against you, Moon Medi, I would do like a personal session with you anytime you requested. It could be off the air. It doesn't have to be public. Whatever you desire is fine for me. But unless I get 2 or 3 people, or we could do one every week. That's an interesting thought. I guess I should have to replace the now missing folder with a new picture. And we could just keep doing a pretty good number of them. It's my own personal biases that I have to really look out for in these. Steve, if you want to go, you can drop out anytime. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Peace and respect, sir. Thank you for your participation.
Peace and respect. Bye for now.
Bye. So I think the personal experience of this, after time culturing it, trying to do our absolute best to eliminate our own biases, having harsh judgment for confirmation, not relaxed judgment at all, are intrinsic to doing this. Also, a person's comfort level seems to be very, very important. I suppose that about wraps it up for now. If you guys comment below this video that you'd like to schedule a session of this, if you were in side chat for this when it was live, or if you watch this in the future, and you make comments that make some kind of specific request, I will try to comply. I will do my best to comply with your requests. As for me personally, and this is anecdotal, this has happened with me so many times and has become a serious part of my everyday life. And I at first had to go through a process of not only getting rid of my personal biases and seeing what was true in reality, looking at what is information and what is not information, which started out this show. That over time, this has become proven to me that it literally cannot be my bias. Aside from that, and I'm sure Big Zebra didn't mean to, but he referred to this as remote viewing. Although people who have professionally done remote viewing in their lives do not necessarily assign an idea of a higher beings or being or God. They apparently know that it does work. And I'm not saying it works 100% of the time. That wouldn't be true. But there is statistically extremely unlikely success rates in people who do this, practice it. And although I would say that information requires a conscious mind, that information is habitually associated to conscious mind, not everyone would agree with me. But it's been my experience so far. But for now, thank you for the offer, Moon Medi. I'm sorry that we don't have enough people participating, and you also admitted you are a bit sleepy. So thank you all for coming by, including Ox and B, Rebuke and Reprove. Rebuke and Reprove, I wish you'd try to be serious sometime about something. I only want to serve you. No joke. No matter what you think of me, I don't really care what you think of me. But I am here to try to serve you, to be a servant to you, because of my belief system of what and who you are. Thanks a lot, Moon Medi, and B, and Ox. And if Khalil, and I'm going to thumb through that real quick, Titan, Harple Blues. If I missed you, it wasn't on purpose, St. Tommy. Peace and respect to you all. Have a great night. And until next time, know that I truly do look for the day that we're all great friends.